Alright guys, this is the assembly video for the 4th gen RAM file kit bumper, front bumper. And this is what it looks like on the truck. Really nice, just solid, simple design. Didn't try to get too much stick out. Try to fit it nice and tight to the truck for you. There's a few notes here. These sensor holes are 1.25 inches. Your sensor bezels will not snap into these. These are 3/16 thick steel plate, so they're designed to snap into something more, probably about 1/4 of the thickness of this. So you're going to want to use a little bit of epoxy to hold the plastic sensor bezel ring in the bumper. Otherwise, if you don't have sensors, there's 2 different files in here. And if you look, there's going to be number 11 and number 21. These are your 2 main body pieces. If you go into your DXF files that I send you, 21 sensors and 11 sensors are the pieces you need to cut out if your truck has the sensors. If you don't have sensors, just cut out 11 and 21. Don't cut out the sensor ones. Because 11 and 21, the regular ones don't have these holes in them. But I think most of you will probably need the sensor bumper. Another quick note, if you don't want these toe points on here, you can go into the file and all you have to do is open up your CAD file that I send you, which will look like this. See, it's labeled 21. You're only going to etch these numbers. You're not going to cut these numbers in. That's why they're a different color. Let's say you don't want these rings on your bumper. Well, all you have to do is just delete these rectangles off of the cut file on both sides, that one and that one. Or if you say you don't want this light bar hole, well, you just delete that, you won't have a light bar hole. Or if you don't like these vents, you just delete those. Just don't delete these little rectangles. These are for your alignment pins, so the bumper will snap together, which we'll get to in a minute. Alright, I'm going to get to how to assemble it next. Alright, so this is what the bumper looks like when it's finished. And I'm just going to dive in here. Alright, to start your assembly of your bumper, we're going to start with assembling our mount designs. This is kind of what the bumper starts with. So the first thing you're going to do is get the piece called 15 and 16. This is going to be 15, this is going to be 16. Take these 2 pieces, you'll notice all these keyholes in them. They key together with the pieces called 19 and 18. So piece 18 has this this little cutout in it. It goes on the bottom, 19 goes on the top, and they key into your 15 and 16 pieces like this. And this is just a 90-degree angle here. These are just 90s, so you can just key these together, tack them together. Don't like weld them all up or they're gonna warp on you. And you're gonna want to do this for one side, and then for the other you're gonna do the opposite. So just mirror this for that one, because you're gonna have 2. This one is gonna be for the left side. This one's gonna be for the right side. All right. So once we do that, you can take these pieces and you can key them then into the horizontal slotted flat plate, which is this one here. It's going to be number 14. The keys will just go into these slots. This whole thing will just key and slot together. Once you get that all put together, at that point, you're going to want to put some welds on this thing. You can weld the whole thing up if you want. You can weld weld it to your heart's content. If I was building it, I'd probably just weld the whole thing on the inside, do all these inside welds, because once this is attached to the center section, you're not going to be able to get back in here to do any of these welds anymore. So I would weld in here, weld all these seams up. The only thing you're not going to want to do is don't weld up on these, on the ends of these, because these are going to have to press up against the bumper, which you're going to see in a sec. Alright, and the next thing we're going to get to is going to be our main center section. So the center section is piece 21. It's this big wide piece. It's the biggest piece on the bumper, and obviously this is your the center of the bumper, and it will just go over these two slots on the mount shapes you just assembled. See how it slides over those slots right there, this one and that one, and it goes over them on both sides. So you're gonna key it into both of those, and you're gonna notice it's gonna line up right along these edges. So you're just gonna make sure it follows these angles here. So get those in, get it all up against these up against this angle here, nice, and then just throw a tack on it. Throw a couple tacks, tack these mounts in, tack this all together. All right, and then we're gonna just gets easy from here. We're just gonna do the piece called number 20, and this piece, both of these pieces are gonna be one. They're just split in half for my program, but when you cut this out, it'll be one big piece. So you're gonna be doing piece number 20. It's gonna line up against this angle, or the edge of the piece we just put on, number 21, on both ends perfectly, and it will follow the angle set by your mount as well. So just put it on and it'll go up against this angle perfectly. Very straightforward, once again, and just throw a couple tacks on it just to keep it rigid while we're building this thing. Sorry, these D-rings, we're not going to get to those just yet. And then the next piece you're going to put on will be the top one here, which is piece 22. Piece 22 goes on and it rests on these angles, once again on your mount pieces. Pretty self-explanatory. Goes up against these edges perfectly. So that's piece 21, or I'm sorry, that's piece 22. And let's see. The next piece I want to cover I just have to get this prepped here. It's going to be the top, which is piece number 1. Piece number 1 goes right over these slots here. Falls right on top of those slots in the top of the mount plate. Pretty easy. Get that on there. It'll match up with this edge here on both sides. You just tack this thing in. Piece number 1 gets all tacked up. Next piece is going to be alright, the next piece we're going to put into the bumper is piece number 2. It's this wing looking piece. It just goes up against these angles, these edges. It follows this edge, and with these two angles you should be able to put this in place, no problem. It'll just go in like so. Put a couple tacks on that. You're gonna put this on both sides, so you'll have this shape. And then the next piece will be your main side piece here, which is going to be part number 11. Part number 11 follows the angle set by the piece you just put in. It goes in up against that edge, lines up perfectly with this edge. Goes against these two edges. So that piece just goes in pretty straightforward. Tack that all in. The next piece you put in will be part number 10. Goes on the bottom. Follows those angles. Once again, this is a really easy one. Lines up to these edges. Follows this angle here. Pretty straightforward. And then we're gonna put in these two pieces. This is part number 3 and 4. Part number 3 is just this little one. Goes in and follows this angle here. Pretty easy. Just tack it up. And then part number 4 just follows the angle along these two that we just put in. And it should line up like so for you. Just throw a couple tack welds along this seam here. That's what it looks like from the back. All right, and then we're gonna do our sides, the very furthest side pieces here. So it's gonna be number 7 is this one, and number 8 is that one. So 7 will just go in. We'll just go in like that. You just take it, goes in, fills this shape perfectly. You can tack that one in, and then the bottom of that is number 8. Same deal. It just fills this shape in. Pretty straightforward. Once we have all that together, you will pretty much have the majority of the bumper done. So it's going to be looking like this. Now there's a couple pieces left that we need to do. So I included these pieces if you want to put these in. These are for your inner fender liner. These are called piece number 9, and these are just nice if you want to button your inner fender up so it's the big plastic isn't flopping around. So I would just weld these on. It's not too critical. Just weld these every couple of inches. So every 3.5 inches is what I have on here. You can put those in. Then what else do I want to cover here? This blue piece is number 17. This is where your light bar mounts. So if you have a light bar, you can use the pedestal mount. It'll just set on here, and then it has this big slotted hole for your light bar. This piece just keys into that opening there on your mount. Put that in, tack it in. Let's see. We can cover our cube light pedestal. Cube light pedestal is really simple. It's just going to be the parts called 5 and 6. So you're going to put in this triangle shaped one first. It will go into these 2 slots in your part number 11. Just goes into those like so. And then you will take this piece, which is called number 5, and it just rests on this key that you just see this top key right here. This one just goes on top of that like that. And you're going to want to have a perfect 90 right here, a 90 like that. And then the cube just sets right on top of that, and the single post bolt just goes through that slotted hole. So there you go, you got your cube mount. The last thing worth mentioning, or one of the last things, is your mount that goes to your truck frame. This is what I would call a mid mount. This piece consists of 3 pieces. So it's piece 12. These are both piece 12. They're both exactly the same as each other. And part 13, which is the piece that they go into with the vertical slots in it. So they just key into the part like so. Just take the 2 pieces, key them into there. You can use a 90-degree square. You should put this outside one in first and tack it in with your 90-degree square, because once you put that in, it might be a little harder to get that 90. That's not a big deal. You can tack these all up, and just like I said, just 2 perfect 90s on these 2. They just go into that one, and you're gonna mirror these. So one side is gonna be like that, and the other side is gonna be like this. So they're basically opposite each other. And when you put this on the truck, these just slip over the front of the frame. Really, this 4th gen has a really simple way of mounting bumpers. You just slip it over the front of the frame, and these just go over your factory bumper mount holes. And you can actually even reuse your factory bumper hardware if you want. So those just go there. For the mounting of the bumper, we're just going to use 4 grade 8 1.5 inch long 1/2 inch bolts with washers, and I'd recommend like a nylock nut. And there's only one bolt that I want to mention here. This one is going to be tricky because it's actually hard to access, so I cut this access hole in. And if you want, I'm going to include this tab that you can actually weld your 1.5 inch long bolt to, weld the head to it so it's sticking out that way, and you can take the tab and just put it through from the back, so you won't have to get your hands back there or a wrench or anything, and that'll stick through. But the rest of these will be really easy to get to with a wrench. So yeah, you're just gonna have your bolts sticking through, facing towards the truck, and tighten them all up. Really easy. The only other thing is the D-ring. So the D-ring I would probably do last, but it doesn't really matter. The D-ring just goes into these holes. This is a inch thick machine D-ring that I order from a seller, a machinist on eBay. I've been using them for years, and they're just really well made. I over when you buy the bumper files, so you can order them from him. You can do whatever you want. I mean, you could erase this hole like I said, or you could cut out your own out of 3/4 and make this hole only 3/4 inch wide if you want. But these are the D-rings that I get from eBay, and I just drew them into my CAD file here. So the D-ring just goes into this hole, and it goes up against this plate here, and you can just slide it in there, throw a couple tacks around it to hold it in. Then I would go around the back, and you can take your welding torch and actually you can actually partially weld the D-ring from the back to this. The plate that we put in is one of the very first ones that we put in. you remember, this is piece 18, and it sets up against piece 18 because this is gonna kind of tie this D-ring into your mount. And there's like a nice little structural boxing here. So if you pull on this thing, it's actually tied into the bumper. And yeah, just take your welder, just burn it in real good in the back, burn it in real good up against piece 18 so it's tied in there. And then you can just weld it in real good up on the front as well. Other than that, that is everything that you can everything for assembling this 4th gen bumper. If you have a light bar or something, you know, every light bar seems to be a little bit different, but they all share a pretty common mount design. So this mount design should work with most stuff. This is just a dimensional kind of thing I put in for light bars. But yeah, they'll just be like a pedestal mount on each side with your light bar, and you might have to shim it up or down, shim the light bar up or something. But you know, this is a do-it-yourself file bumper, so you pretty much, the sky's kind of the limit if you really need to, you know, edit anything for your light bar. But otherwise, I think a lot of people just want to leave this open to increase the airflow over the intercooler and the transcooler and everything. So yeah, that's everything for your 4th gen do-it-yourself file kit bumper. And I hope you guys really like the bumper, and definitely send me some pictures, videos, whatever you want. I always like to see them finished. I'd like to put them on the Instagram and all that stuff. All right, thanks guys.